So, welcome to my installment where I'm posting how to go through each page or each section of the bankruptcy petition. And I do this as well as the blog, bankruptcy.blog. So, you can go over there and check it out. And I also recommend there's a lot of articles regarding not just the economy and things that are happening, which could affect you, let's say affect your wallet, but also just questions that might pop up when it comes to bankruptcy. Now, as you can see here, I'm going through each section exactly how it appears on the clerk of court's website. So sometimes it might seem a little out of order, but I'm doing it in the same steps that they have it so that there's no confusion, nobody gets lost. Okay. Now, the last video I did focused on assets, which is Schedule A/slash Schedule B. This is now Schedule C. And here is where you're claiming the property, whatever personal property you have, whether it's exempt or not. Now, it's important to realize that whatever the exemptions are going to vary from one state to the next. I am going through that step by step on my blog. It's time consuming, so I do apologize for that. But in the meantime, I am putting up all the information of the court system as well as all the contact information for the trustees. And then little by little, I'm doing the exemptions. So check out the site to make sure that the exemptions, you can see the exemptions are there for your state. I have noticed not only when I was preparing my textbook, but also just doing research, a lot of websites are out of date. So, for example, when it comes to the federal exemptions, I know my exemptions are up to date because of the sources that I use. But there's a lot of well known sites out there like Cornell Law that I think go back 6 years since they last updated the exemptions. So, always double, triple check the exemptions. Again, I know I'm up to date based on the software that I use, but I see that common issue where there's a lot of statutes for the bankruptcy code that are outdated. Now, when I have done, if I've gone through your state, I even typically list a statute as well that applies to exemption in your state. So definitely go check it out. Now, when we're here talking about exemptions, basically exemptions just saying protected. That's all it is. Now, again, the exemptions do vary from one state to another. As you can see here, are you claiming state or federal exemptions? Most states have their own exemptions. For example, I'm used to dealing with Florida, so I'll use that as an example. Florida doesn't use the federal exemptions. And the answer to that is simply because under the bankruptcy code, the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention Consumer Protection Act, states can choose. Do you want to use state exemptions or do you want to use the federal bankruptcy law exemptions? Some states, very few, I think 11 of them, if I remember correctly, allow you to choose between one or the other. Now, that doesn't mean you can say, I'll take the exemption federal for this and then the state law for that. No, it's either all state or all federal. So it really depends. I think if I remember correctly, Colorado was like that. So you have to make sure which exemption is best for you. And that even goes look up the issues that I've posted regarding relocating. If you're moving from one state to the next, there's residency statutes you have to comply with. And so that will affect your exemptions. Do you want to move to a new state claiming exemptions from your prior state, or is it vice versa? So keep that in mind when it comes to exemptions. Now, I'm wondering if you actually hear that little frog in the background there. He's on my window. It's one of those green tree frogs. So what can I do? Let him sing along and join us and have fun with us. Now, when we're going over the exemptions, a lot of the stuff I'm just telling you the issues that I know occur regularly. I'm not going to go specifically over, well, put here $100 for your electric bill because I don't know what your electric bill is. So I tend to focus really more on the issues because each bankruptcy petition is going to be different. What I am going to tell you is a mistake that we all realize that as lawyers that we make. We first might go through the bankruptcy intake and then put in there that, let's say, all the personal property, the stuff inside the house, the furniture, etc., amounts to $4,000. And the only reason we put that is just because the client put that down and we just copy it onto our bankruptcy software. And then you realize later on, wait a minute, the exemption, the client gave property values that are way too high. I got to reduce this. So you got to go back and then say, well, this isn't $200. This is $100. The problem is you have to go back and change it as well on Schedule AB, which is the prior video that I've done. AB, as you can see here, is regarding all the assets. And I want to be clear, all assets, even the ones that you are claiming. A lot of times people say, well, I'm keeping my truck. I'm not going to include that in the bankruptcy. It's a kind of like a play on words. Including a bankruptcy kind of sounds like you're giving it up and surrendering it in bankruptcy, but no, the proper way for us to say it is you're going to list it in bankruptcy and then you'll just claim it exempt, depending whether what the exemptions are in your state and if cars are protected. So when you're going through the exemptions, make sure that you make any changes, because it's common that maybe you went too low or too high. And that's why you have to review the bankruptcy petition several times. If you went too high, then you got to go back and change them all as well on Schedule AB. Not even a bankruptcy software does that. We have to change it, if anything, on Schedule AB, and then it'll change it again on Schedule C. But if you're doing this manually, you have to do it twice. Once you have those conflicts, trust me, the trustee's going to ask, well, why is it here $100 and then over here it's $50? And then comes the more questions, the nervousness, and everything else that comes when these trustees start asking questions. Now, the homestead exemption, please look at bankruptcy.blog. I do discuss homestead exemption. And there's one thing I want to make clear. The homestead exemption has nothing to do with the homestead exemption that you can't claim in the town that you live in. A lot of people say, well, I'm living with my parents for whatever reason. Maybe they're renting out their house to their cousin, but I still claim it as my homestead exemption. In bankruptcy, that is a major issue. You cannot be living somewhere else and then renting out your homestead, because it's not going to be protected in bankruptcy. So homestead exemption for tax purposes and homestead exemptions for bankruptcy are two different things. Now, what I circled here was, this is the issue why I mentioned relocation. If you're going to claim the homestead exemption, you must have owned that home for 3 years. Now, if you move to another state and you just got there 6 weeks ago, you see where the problem is, but you can still file with the exemptions from the state that you were living in. So keep that in mind, because the relocations, whether you're leaving or going to, you have to figure out which state favors you. And once you figure that out, then the next question is, am I filing now, or am I going to have to wait till the exemption periods kick in, which is 2 years to claim the exemptions of that new state? All right. Now, the rest, as you can see here, you're just basically copying and pasting everything that you wrote on Schedule AB of your petition. That means everything. You can now. When I mean one of the things that I like to do when I do property, I don't just lump everything together. I like to go room by room. And so, if it's a 3-bedroom house, I say bedroom one, one bed, two nightstands, etc. So again, you're doing the same exact thing here when it comes to the exemptions, because it has to be a carbon copy. It has to be a mirror of whatever you posted in Schedule AB. So just keep that in mind. All right. And again, remember to focus on the numbers. Now, when it comes to this, my biggest concern is add up all these numbers to make sure that you're okay. This video here, remember, goes with the prior video of Schedule AB, and it also goes with, I think, a video two before that of the summary of assets. I had said that the summary of assets is important because there you get a picture, a summary basically of all your assets, and you can determine there whether something's off or not. For example, one simple zero could also mean you went from 100,000 to 1 million. So when you're looking at that, you say, wait a minute, where did I come up with these numbers? So my suggestion is go through the summary of assets, add up all the numbers, and then copy everything on Schedule AB to here, Schedule C exemptions, and add up all the numbers again. Make sure that Schedule C is matching with the summary of assets and liabilities. Now, assets and liabilities, we're going to go over that. That's Schedule F. That's coming up soon. So that'll be all your debts, credit card, hospital bills, etc. Okay. So to summarize this, just make sure that you have basically copied everything exactly as it is on Schedule AB. And then my only concern is make sure that the numbers are fair, reasonable. Reality is you're asking, an exemption. So let's go over here and let me put down just something simple, living room furniture. I'm not going to, my bankruptcy software, I have a lot more room to write this down. But let's say I put down $2,000. All right. How much you can exempt really depends on all the other assets and the exemptions allowable in your state. Florida, for example, depending on whether you claim a homestead or not, it's going to be either $1,000 or $4,000. If it's $4,000, well, you can see there, I still got room to play with, right? I can declare all of this exempt. But you have to figure out which are the assets you're looking to exempt. You have to know the exemptions of your state. And then, like I said, add them all up, make sure that everything's okay. If it's not, then you have to go back and make the adjustments. Now, when it comes to the value of these assets, it has to be garage sale value. So living room, $2,000. Is it possible? Sure. When did I buy that furniture? If it's 5 years old, I know you paid 3,000 for it, but there's no way it's worth 2,000 today. If it's worth $200, I'd be surprised, because we're doing everything on garage sale value. Garage sale value. If you're online and you're doing research, you're going to say, well, fair market value. It's like, fair market value. Where do I get that information from? Common sense, really. Really, what would you get for it if you sold it at a yard sale, a garage sale? You put it on for sale at Craigslist.com. What's that magical number? Trustees are not really interested in your living room, just so you know. They're more interested in your jewelry, the equity in your car, tax returns, etc. But just keep that in mind. The focus has to be what it's worth. Fair market value, garage sale value. All right. So this form is simple enough. Any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and make sure to look at the other videos and blogs where I reference the summary of schedules and also the Form AB. Okay. Thank you.